pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is the roll call. Chairman David Leland.
Vice Chair Lauren will do
Yeah, I'm
that.
going to do it for you, yeah.
Lauren, if you could just read the date and the name of the meeting into the record for us.
Planning and zoning meeting agenda, Tuesday, June 25th, 2019 at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Chairman David Leland. Vice Chair Ross Sillingford.
Present.
Commissioner June Perrin. Commissioner Philip Markey.
Present.
Commissioner Ray Nazareth.
Present.
Adam Miller, alternate 1. And Gary Speck.
Present.
The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the May 14th, 2019 planning and zoning meeting. Can I have a motion to approve?
I approve.
Motion to approve the minutes from May 14th.
I'll second.
If everybody can turn their mic on when they're speaking.
Turn your mic.
Oh, now it's on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that successful motion and approval? We can move on?
You need to,
all
you need
in
to call for a vote.
Yeah,
So
all
call
in
for
favor.
all in
Okay,
favor.
vote. I'd like to call for a vote.
All in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then ask if any are opposed.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is the first item on the agenda for discussion. Application number 19001, AAR Verse Apartments at Royal Palm Beach. The applicant, American Landmark, is requesting architectural approval for an existing monument sign located at 222 Kingfisher Way.
And you can approach the podium, sir. I'm going to go ahead and swear everyone in. If this is a quasi-judicial hearing, so anybody who's speaking on any of the items on tonight's agenda, if you could please rise and raise your right hands for me. Thank you. Do you all swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And then with regard to application 19-001 AAR, I'll ask the board or the commission if there are any ex parte communications with regard to this application that need to be disclosed.
No.
No.
Hearing none, you may proceed.
Okay, Kevin.
Yes. This is the former Hidden Harbor Apartments, which is just north of the Dunkin' Donuts on the north side of the lake, on the west side of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. And what they are seeking is to replace the text on the sign to identify it as Verse at Royal Palm Beach. There's a depiction on the screen of what the sign will look like. And these are the details of the sign. The colors are listed down below with their color numbers. So we have all the information that we normally require of the applicant. Village staff is recommending approval of the application as submitted. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Does the applicant have any presentation for the board?
No, sir.
Can you state your name for the record, sir?
Gary Wyche, W-Y-C-H-E.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, no public comment.
I'd just like to direct your attention to the screen. The criteria for signage is listed there. If you like, I can read it, or if you're familiar with it, I'll just let you go ahead and.
Yeah, I think, would any of the board members like to?
Yes, Kevin, if you could please read it, because we have some new commissioners.
Very well. The criteria for signage is signage shall be made compatible with the adjacent structures and buildings to which it is attached. There shall be a harmony in texture, lines, and masses in the design of the signage. The height and scale of the signage elements shall be considered with reference to the spatial relationships within the development and to adjacent structures or rights-of-way. The incorporation of identifying characteristics of certain signage, such as trademarks or logos, will be given strong consideration in light of the importance of such elements play within the current marketplace towards properly identifying goods and services offered on site. And lighting shall enhance the signage, but excessive brightness and brilliant colors should be avoided. Lighting for signage should also be reviewed in context with adjacent or nearby residential neighborhoods so that adverse signage impacts may be softened or muted. Having said that, they're just replacing the face on an existing monument sign, so they're really just replacing the text portion of it. So, and they painted it to match the building as well. The base of the sign has been painted to match the building, so it is in harmony with the new building colors that were recently approved. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, so any comments from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Markey,
No.
Commissioner Nazareth,
No.
Commissioner Miller.
None.
I have no comments or questions. So with that, oh, did I miss someone? I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, Barry. Commissioner Spett.
No.
Okay, so I think we can take a motion now.
I'd like to make a motion to approve application number 19-001 as read.
I'll second.
Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so that motion passes.
5-0.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, next item. Application.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead, number
fine.
2. You're right.
Okay. Application number 19-032 AAR. Okay, Verse, is it Verse or
Verse.
Okay. Verse Apartments at Royal Palm Beach. The applicant Excel Consultant Incorporated is requesting architectural approval for decorative sunshades and awnings on an existing building located at 222 Kingfisher Way. Ex parte?
Yes, is the applicant, are you here for that one as well? Okay. Yeah, go ahead and approach the podium if you would. Can you state your name for the record, ma'am?
Tracy Bruce.
Thank you. And again, I'll turn to the commission and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to 19-032 that need to be disclosed.
No.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Okay, I'll go ahead and, the site is the exact same site that we were looking at before. The shutters are going over the windows. They are aluminum rail type shutters, and they will be black. And they're going to be put on all of the buildings on all sides, or just the front?
Just the front.
Just the fronts.
What's being seen from the parking lots.
The ones that like the front entrance to the buildings.
Correct.
So, having said that, you can see what the shutters look like. Here's a diagram of how they're attached. They do angle slightly. They provide some shade for the windows. And village staff is recommending approval as submitted. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and the applicant is here as well.
Thank you, Kevin. Does the applicant have a presentation for us?
I do not.
Okay. Public comment on this item? Okay, none. Okay, commissioners, Commissioner Speck. Any comments or questions, or no? Okay. Commissioner Nazareth?
None at this time.
Commissioner Markey?
No, none.
Commissioner Miller?
None.
Okay, I have none. No questions or comments either. So motion to approve this application? All in favor? Well, I guess I need a motion.
Motion and a second.
Motion and second.
I'll make a motion to approve application number 19-032 as submitted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, that's it.
Great.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. All right, item number 3. Application number 18-120 SVAR CarMax. The applicant, do I need to read the entire thing? Okay. The applicant, Centerpoint Integrated Solutions LLC, is requesting a sign variance from section 20-60 parentheses 2 to allow for a 17-foot 4-inch wide by 10-foot high sign, 173 square feet in area, where the village code allows a maximum monument sign size no more than 8 feet in width and 7 feet in height, and 42 square feet in area. A sign variance from section 20-62 to allow for 21 and 5/16 inch letters on the monument sign where village code allows a maximum letter height no more than 15 inches. A sign variance from section 20-60 paragraph 4F to allow for a 3-foot 2-inch wide by 4-foot high directional sign where village code allows a maximum directional sign that is 2 feet high and 2 square feet in area, and a sign variance from section 20-64F, section 4F, to allow a maximum mounting height of 8 feet for directional signage in the sales display lot where village code allows a maximum height of 2 feet for a 13.47 acre property located at 10501 Southern Boulevard.
You pretty much covered everything I was going to say.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
The site CarMax, for CarMax is highlighted in blue on the monitor. It is on the north side of Southern Boulevard, just to the west of State Road 7 and the Burlington Coat Factory Shopping Center. It is zoned general commercial. The proposed use for the site is a CarMax used car dealership. And this site is slightly unique because it doesn't directly front on Southern Boulevard. It's got the flyover in very close proximity. It has a frontage road that ends just right about where the property starts on the east side, and there is an FDOT dry detention pond that's probably close to 90 feet or 92 feet at its widest between the property and the roadway. So the first request, well, let me go through the criteria first. Village Code Section 2632F7 allows the Village Council to grant variances to the zoning code when special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands. Special conditions do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance will not confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands. That a literal interpretation of the code would deprive the applicant of rights enjoyed by other lands. And that the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the property shall be requested. That the variance be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the sign code, and that it will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise be detrimental to the public welfare. Having said that, there's a diagram showing where the various signs are to be located. It's probably not at a scale that's very visible, but it identifies the monument sign, the directional signs, and the row markers that mark the rows of cars that are for sale. The first one is, or actually the first two variances, is for the size of the monument. They want 17 foot 4 inches in width and 10 feet in height for a total of 173 square feet. And the recently adopted sign code that the Village Council directed staff to change to eliminate future sign variance requests requires that the lettering on that monument sign be no more than 15 inches in height. And they are asking for 21 and 5/16 inches. So that is the first two variance requests. They deal with the monument sign. The colors and whatnot have been provided on the sign drawing as well. The next variance is for a directional sign, and that would be located approximately right here. There are two entrances off of 105th Avenue North. The first one is for the public, actually, I guess, it's directing where the trucks and the carriers are supposed to go. So this is the public entrance to reach the parking area, and I believe that the north entrance is the entrance where they want the car carrier to come in. They do not desire to have the public and the car carriers mixing for obvious safety reasons. So they were asking for a larger directional sign so that it's legible and visible for the truck drivers as well as the general public. And then the second part of that is shown in C. Their inventory is out front, closest to the Southern Boulevard right-of-way. In addition, there is a connector roadway that the village is requiring of the applicant to connect it to the shopping center to the east, so that it minimizes the number of trips on Southern Boulevard, people going between various shopping centers. We'd rather keep them off the major thoroughfares and on these little frontage roads if possible. So the second sign variance is to allow row markers so that salespeople and the general public can identify where certain car brands or types are stored in the inventory lot, and they will be mounted at a height of 8 feet. The code only permits them to be mounted at 2 feet. The markers themselves are not bigger than 2 square feet. So the variance is just to the mounting height for visibility and the ability to find the inventory that the customer is looking for. And I'm going to read you what the applicant is contending why the variance should be granted. The applicant contends that a larger monument sign and letter height are necessary due to the property being set back approximately 92 feet from the closest point of the adjacent Southern Boulevard right-of-way. The property is set back 92 feet from Southern Boulevard due to the location of an FDOT water detention area located between the roadway and the property. The applicant asserts that other similar automobile dealerships located within the village of Royal Palm Beach and along Southern Boulevard corridor also have larger signs than permitted by village code. Regarding the variances for the directional signage, the applicant contends that the larger size for the directional signs at the entryways to the property are necessary in order for the automobile delivery trucks to be able to clearly see and read the signs directing them to the proper entrance to utilize when picking up or delivering vehicles to the site. CarMax finds it operationally undesirable and a safety concern for the general public and automobile delivery trucks to interact at the dedicated entry points for customers and delivery trucks. The applicant is also seeking a variance to allow for directional signs mounted at a height of 8 feet where village code only allows for a maximum of a 2-foot height. These particular directional signs are designed to identify the locations where specific inventory is stored. It is the assertion of the applicant that the signs need to be 8 feet in height so that both customers and employees can see the signs above the cars and to make it easier to direct customers to the inventory in which they are interested. The applicant further contends that this means of inventory organization and wayfinding are common among dealers offering multiple brands of automobiles. Staff is recommending denial of this variance request. Staff feels as though the criteria for granting these variance requests have not been met, since there are no special conditions and circumstances that exist which are peculiar to the site, structure, or building, and which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings subject to similar requirements, and that the granting of the variance request will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands, buildings, or structures similarly situated. In addition, the Village Council recently, I already told you that they recently adopted the code to preclude future sign variances. And I believe the applicant is here and would like to do a presentation. Unfortunately, since cities have been victim of denial of service attacks recently, we're not able to load things off of thumb drives for applicants anymore. So he is not able to utilize the presentation that he prepared. So I'm going to put up my slide so that he can reference it while he's talking.
Thanks. And before we turn to the applicant, if I could turn back to this commission and ask if there are any ex parte communications with regard to application 18-120 that need to be disclosed?
No.
Thank you. Can you state your name for the record, sir?
Yeah, my name's Parker Lang. I'm with CenterPoint.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Sir.
And I did have the presentation prepared. Unfortunately, we weren't able to show it, so I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have it. I think Kevin did a nice job covering the requests, but if you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any public comment? Okay, no public comment. Okay, so let me turn to the commissioners. Commissioner Specht?
No.
Any comments or questions? No?
Not at this time, no.
Commissioner Nazareth?
Yes, I have a question, Kevin. Can you expand on, now you said this was zoned for used car dealership,
That's correct.
and basically they are, right?
Yes.
So they're complying there. Okay. Now, the two issues that you brought up were the monument sign, and you said they're asking for 21 when they get 15. Is that the bottom line?
21 and 5/16 inch in
21
height,
and some change, right?
where 15 is the maximum required or allowed by code.
And I believe the textbook definition of a variance is hardship, right? So why is it that did they give you a good reason to staff?
The reasons that they were asserting was that this particular piece of property is encumbered by the flyover of Southern Boulevard.
Yeah.
And it's further back from the roadway than other properties further down the road because of that FDOT water detention area that sits in front of their site, whereas other sites along the boulevard do not have that particular encumbrance on them.
And maybe I can ask the same question to Parker Lane.
Yeah.
Can you
So
answer that, please.
and it's a function of just the readability of the sign and identifying the site. As Kevin mentioned, we are set back from the roadway about 90 feet due to that DOT. We also have the frontage access road as well, setting the site back even further. And we determined that the distance to allow readability, the size of the sign itself is a function of the letter size. So we requested two variances, one for the overall size of the sign and one.
Right, I'm getting to the second one, but I wanted to hear your version of this sign because I heard the staff and now I'm hearing yours.
Yeah. So it is a function of, and the hardship would be the FDOT easement. We weren't able to put signage along the road there. So setting it back even further, we had to compensate by providing.
And you mentioned that you have a setback, right? Basically, you want your customers to see you, so basically you're set back, and that's what you would define as a hardship also?
Correct, yes. In order for the customers to safely access the site, it is 50 miles an hour along that roadway, so cars will be traveling fairly fast, and to identify and find out where that is and make the appropriate turn. We feel that sign is appropriate for the area as far as size and readability.
And you also mentioned that the other dealerships basically a getting away with and you're being treated unfairly? Am I clear on that one?
Yeah, so there is other dealerships up the road. And
Can you name them, please?
I believe it's Mazda and several others in that complex. I believe they're part of a planned development, so they had different criteria as far as signage. We're complying with city standards.
So can I ask Kevin, our staff,
Sure.
Kevin, do you think that's accurate, that Mazda and, those 3 dealerships, we had, I believe it was last or the time before, we had also a similar issue. Are they being unfairly treated when these dealerships got away with it?
I don't know if I'd characterize it as unfairly treated.
Yep.
However, I think the applicant's point is that they were granted variances for 30-foot tall by 10-foot wide signs. They were back a little further, and they're similarly situated with the flyover. Ford is immediately to their west, and for a number of years they've had a larger sign. They recently redid the front of the building. They did some upgrades to make the building more attractive from the street, and they moved the sign back. They kept the existing sign, which is larger than 42 square feet, but they moved it back to meet our setback.
Yeah, because Parker, I'm really having trouble here finding the hardship. I'm very, very lenient sitting up here, but I'm just piecing it together. It doesn't make sense. I don't see a hardship. I basically see that you're trying to reach your customers, which is a business decision, but I don't see a zoning issue here. I mean, the hardship, that is.
Yeah, I would just reiterate the hardship would be the DOT access. Easement area along the front that we have no control over. We can't build in it. If our site was, along the state route there, similar to the Ford dealership next door, and they have a larger sign as well, we'd be able to.
Which brings me to the next question. I believe it was Toyota the last time we had an issue, and I asked Toyota to go to their headquarters, if that's your decision maker, or do you make it at your level, at the dealership level there? Because I know you have a similar one in Boynton, right? That's your model?
Right, yeah, and Brian, he's with CarMax. He can.
Maybe you can hear from Brian. Brian, maybe you can comment on that.
Before you start, can you state your name for the record, sir?
Yes,
Thanks.
Brian Maslick. So I am with CarMax. I'm from the home office, Richmond, Virginia. I am the program director for new store site design.
Okay.
So hopefully I can address some of your concerns. We felt that the FDOT easement area was a significant enough variance that we push the sign back. We're forced to be back further than we need to be.
Right.
In terms of readability, size is everything. We feel like the 2 extra feet in height that we're asking for is not excessive. We didn't come in with a 15-foot sign or a 20-foot sign or a 30-foot sign. We just wanted a couple of extra feet that we felt was proportionate to the setback that we were being forced. So we tried to stay as close as we could to the town code. In terms of the overall width of the sign, unfortunately, we're being penalized because we have a horizontal logo as opposed to a vertical logo or a mark, like a Toyota has the big mark.
Right.
We don't have that. So it's kind of a combination of events.
Okay.
Just the 2 extra feet to try to get some readability. As Parker mentioned, you have people coming down the flyover at 50 miles an hour,
Right.
trying to navigate safely across 3 lanes of traffic. Another thing to keep in mind, a large percentage of our customers are not familiar with this area. So we draw from a much bigger area than just Royal Palm Beach. And so we're going to have people that are going to be unfamiliar with where they need to turn. We want to direct them to the site as quick as possible.
Okay.
To keep them from having to go past the site, do a U-turn, come back, that type of movement.
Okay, I heard from both of you. Now, the second issue is, and maybe we can start with Kevin. They're asking for a directional sign, and basically the flow is from the shopping center, to connect with the shopping center.
That's correct. That little frontage road
Yeah.
between the drainage or detention pond in their property, yes.
Okay.
It's actually on their property, and that's not uncommon that we require, adjacent properties to connect so that, like I said, that they don't have to get back out on the major thoroughfare to navigate to other developments.
Okay, and can you give me an explanation for the same question, please?
Yeah, so the one sign that we're talking about, and slightly different than what Kevin had pointed out, all of our traffic will enter the site at that first entry point.
Yeah.
So that'll be customers, employees, and carriers.
Okay.
As a car carrier pulls in, what we want them to do is navigate the site in a safe manner. So they're going to pull in and continue straight, make the big loop around, go to the designated parking area, and then exit the site. What we don't want them to do is make the immediate left-hand turn, at which point they would be kind of stuck in the immediate parking field. And at that point, they're gonna damage landscaping, potentially damage cars, potentially have conflicts with pedestrians. So we're just trying to make sure that the path that we designed,
Safety aspect of it,
the
right?
path that they defined,
Yeah.
they stay on it. Car carriers are,
Yeah.
they're an interesting breed, and we want to make sure that they drive the route we pushed them to.
Right.
So all we're asking for here is an additional 2 feet of height to get that sign out of the landscaping. If we lowered it 2 feet, it's going to be lost in the landscaping. You're not going to be able to see it.
Well, what I'm concerned with, gentlemen, here is this is a lot to ask. There's a lot of, these are major issues. And we have a code here in our village of Royal Palm Beach. And when you basically show an extreme leniency, then that's going to open up a can of worms for future applicants. And that was my main concern. That's why I wanted to hear both sides of the story here. And, we value your coming in here, because I remember talking to you last time, CarMax, and I think your service here would be very invaluable. And I'm just asking if you can just sit down with staff and maybe come to some compromise and give us a better way to approve you. Because right now, it's just too much right now that you're asking. And that's my point.
If I may,
Yeah, yes, sir.
There's a correction I need to enter. The village code stipulates that the height cannot exceed 7 feet. So
Exactly.
it's 3 feet
Right.
more. I also wanted to point out that this site does not have access off of Southern Boulevard.
Right.
It's off the side road. And I think that was all the points that I had.
Okay. Oh, that's all I have, Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Markey?
Only question I have is if we approve or disapprove this, there's two issues. There are the monument signs by the road, and then the signs in the parking lot, so,
You can make a motion in such a way if you want to approve parts of the variance request,
Conditional, right?
whether it's just the directional portion of it or the directional and the letter height. You can do any permutation you want. You can recommend the size of the sign be denied. Ultimately, obviously, you're a recommending board. So what you're doing here is making a recommendation to the village council. Whether you recommend approval or denial tonight, this will still move forward to the village council, and they will ultimately, and they'll consider all of the evidence that was presented here tonight the same that you are.
okay.
And just one thing to add, since you are evaluating criteria, in the event that there is any recommendation of denial or portion thereof, if you could, as part of your motion, state what criteria you think have not been met by the applicant, just be as clear as you can on the record.
Can I add one clarification? Because one of the variances that we're requesting is for the row markers. And I think what we were really looking for here is more of a clarification, because I don't feel that the road marker itself was clearly defined within the code. It sort of fell into a different category. The only reason we're mounting it, quite honestly, at 8 feet, 7 feet to the bottom, is the building code is forcing us to mount it that high so that people don't run into it as they walk past the light pole.
Yeah.
So that's more of a clarification that's turning up as a variance.
Thank you, Brian. That's a good point, yeah.
Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miller?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. So, my first question is, the sign, the monument sign, was there any, is it possible that that sign could be placed within the detention area easement or closer to the roadway by permit through DOT, for example? Has that been explored?
We did approach the DOT early on. We actually looked at putting it on the immediate corner there. There just wasn't enough room with the slopes and everything and to modify their drainage area.
That would be our preference. If we can make that happen, I would be very happy.
That would be a
All right.
solution.
The second question is related to the sign, the row markers. So the point you made about the sign height. So where are those row markers mounted? What are they mounted on?
So there's existing, Kevin, I don't know if we can pull back up the exhibit from the sign package. In the display lot on the existing light poles, they'd be attached to the light pole itself.
Okay, and they're 1 foot wide by
Oh.
1 foot square.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so they are mounted on the light poles within the inventory. So customers are walking, you guys have all probably shopped cars. You're walking all around the car,
Yep.
looking at it, you're not paying attention to your surroundings.
Right, right. So, and the code requires 2 foot high, right?
Correct.
So would those row markers be like not visible at 2 feet high, blocked by cars? Wouldn't it be?
Obviously, they'd be blocked by the cars, yes.
Okay,
And these, I guess the row markers are kind of unique in this instance because they're attached to a pole. We have had instances where you've had directional or informational signs that are attached at a certain height on a building, and they're limited to 2 square feet, kind of like an ATM sign at a bank.
right.
But these are obviously not attached to a building, so that's why the 2 foot comes into play here, is because it's not on a building, it's on, a
And the
pole.
2 foot height refers to the height from the ground to the top of the sign,
the top
not
of the sign.
dimension of the sign, correct?
It's allowed to be 2 feet in height and 2 square feet in area, so 1 by 2 or 2 by 1 would be the size.
So does it seems to me that in terms of the sign functioning as it should and serving customers as it should,
And meeting building code,
taller,
so that people don't
Exactly.
bang their heads.
right,
Safety.
exactly, that it should be
Safety's-
higher.
Right.
And 7 feet I know that's a minimum that's kind of a standard minimum for road signs, for pedestrians not to hit their heads on it. So it seems reasonable to me for this particular variance. The only other question I have is, in terms of the motions, can we do 4 separate motions? It sounds like it might get really complicated to do one motion for all these variances.
I think because you have them as one application, they need to be in one
Yeah.
motion. Legally, that is,
Oh, okay. I
yeah,
see.
for the record, because they're presented as a package.
And we
deal.
need to reference the criteria and the design dimensions. You mentioned that we should include that in the
The
motion.
criteria is the important part, and
Okay.
why you think there's an issue. If you
Right.
think there's an issue.
Okay, that's
And
fine.
a suggestion might be to craft the first part to deal with the monument sign, the 2 requests for that, and the reasons, if you don't feel it meets the code, what part, what criteria it doesn't meet, and then move on to the directional signs.
Right. So, okay, I'm gonna make a couple other comments, and then I think that'll be it. The first one is regarding the monument sign size. I think it does seem to me that they do have some sort of a hardship. It is a visibility hardship. I realize that the village has recently passed, revised the code to minimize variances. But I don't think the intent has ever been, or the expectation was, that there would never be ever again a variance on a sign. So I'm inclined to agree that this is potentially a variance that is reasonable in this circumstance. They're not, they don't have the same situation that the majority of businesses that directly front the road have. There aren't any other, there are few other businesses that have that hardship. The other ones are the ones that were discussed, which are the other auto dealerships, and I think they may have been perhaps approved at a time when the code was different. Maybe there may or may not have been a variance. I'm not sure for those.
They also had an FDOT detention pond in front.
Right.
Probably a little bit bigger than this one, I believe.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and just so we're all clear, for the sake of the record, anyone who comes before this body or the council with a variance request is subject to review of the same criteria. So just because a different establishment may have a sign doesn't mean, number one, that they didn't go through the process, but also keep in mind that each site is its own entity, its own being, and
Right.
you're to apply the code to those facts that are being presented to you here tonight.
Agreed.
I think
Thank
you're trying to say that it doesn't set a precedent when
Exactly, that each
Exactly,
application
that's,
has to
that
come,
was my point.
be on its own merit.
Setting
and
a
be reviewed.
precedent, yeah.
Correct.
The second variance request was for the sign letter height. I'm inclined to agree that it is a little bit of a, there is some hardship there, and it doesn't seem totally unreasonable. The sign is significantly larger in width, though, than the height and letter size. I can see, is there a way to maybe reduce it that maybe staff might be more comfortable with, that may still exceed, but maybe not quite as much as a compromise? Is there a way that...
I need to ask legal to step in here, whether or not the board needs to act on the application before them, or whether they can grant a lesser variance if they wanted to shrink the width of the sign.
That would be permissible here tonight, should that be something that is desired. You certainly can't go above what's being requested.
Right, they just can't go higher than what's being asked for.
Right.
So we could approve a lesser sign size? Can you clarify? I'm sorry.
That would have to be obviously contingent on the
Yeah,
applicant,
Yeah.
acquiescing to that or being amenable to that here tonight.
Something less than what is being proposed, but perhaps greater than what code would allow. Is there possible to reduce the sign size by any amount?
If I might just add something before the applicant answers that question. One of the criteria for signages for AAR is that there be harmony and texture, sizes, the mass, the way things are centered and things like that. So, you see what the text is and the way that it's laid out. I'm not sure how much they could shrink it that it would be that significant.
Still, yeah.
All right, just a suggestion. The third one is the directional sign size and height. That one, I'm not sure I see any hardship there. The fourth variation, the row marker's height, I already spoke about that. So that's my comments. I guess we're ready for a motion then.
I think the other board members may have questions or comments.
Any additional questions or comments? Because I think everyone
spoke.
has spoken, yeah. So any motion, would anyone like to make a motion at this time? It's pretty intimidating. Okay. Can I make a motion?
You
No.
cannot.
I cannot make a motion, okay.
I have a question. When I want to make this motion, can I make it as a motion to approve or a motion to deny?
You're a recommending body in this instance, so your motion should be in the form of a recommendation. So a recommendation to approve, a recommendation to deny.
Yes. Okay, I'll make a motion, application number 18-120, that I agree with the staff, and I make a motion to deny as read. The denial.
Second.
Can I make a comment? Is it possible to break up that motion into, because there are 4 separate requests, there are 4 separate signs, or
I
whatever,
think
3
there's a
separate
motion
signs,
that's been
Yeah,
4
seconded.
separate variations.
The issue,
Wouldn't it be appropriate to break it up?
the issue you have is you have a motion on the floor, and now I think I heard a second before you started speaking, so it would be proper to address that motion first.
Right.
Okay.
And then you get to,
Those motions have been made. So you need-
Okay, all in favor?
And
Uh,
just so we're clear, because of the motion is for recommendation of denial, an affirmative vote is for denial. So if you vote aye or yes, you are recommending denial,
On all 4 variances.
correct? Because the motion as made on the floor is for the application as submitted, including all.
So
of
I
the
have
variances.
a so, Mr. Chair, if I,
Sure.
so it sounds like our chairman has a alternate motion, so can I take back my second? Or do we still have to go
You
forward?
need to move forward because you have
Okay.
a motion and a second.
So how does that, so we will not be able to split the vote
If-
into separate?
If the
consider-
motion fails, then you'll be able to make a new motion.
Right, if the motion passes, it's the motion passes with the first and the second, and whatever the vote will be. If, as he said, if it fails, or there's no action taken, then
Okay.
there would be room for a second motion.
All right. Can you repeat the motion, please? Is that, can we do that?
Yes.
You can, yes, and you can make a friendly amendment to the motion if that's something that's desired.
I have also a question that's on it. Can this be pulled? Basically, because it sounds like there's things that have to be met, or I'll do it, okay, all right. I'm gonna do the motion again. Is that what you're requesting? Okay.
The chair, your vice chair, or your
I-
acting chair has requested
Right.
that.
I'm making a motion, application number 18-120, agreeing with staff to deny this motion as read.
And there was a second, so you need to vote on that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2.
Correct.
So that includes all 4
Correct.
variations? Okay.
And the village council will see that there was
Goes to the
a
council.
split on the vote, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess next item, item 4, application number 18-0107 for Southern Boulevard Properties, Pod 4. The applicant, Urban Design Kilday Studios, is requesting a variance from section 26-80, section 2B, to allow for a minimum lot width of 45 feet, where the village code requires 55 feet, on a 33.75 plus or minus acre parcel of land located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7. Ex parte?
Sure thing. Are there any ex parte communications with regard to application 18-0107 that need to be disclosed?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, staff has a presentation. If you direct your attention to the screen, the site is highlighted in red. It is in the lower left-hand corner of the slide. It is approximately 33.75 acres. It is Pod 4 of the Southern Boulevard Properties planned commercial, planned residential development. It's the single-family portion. You've already approved the land use and the zoning to make it single-family and zone it RS3, which is a single-family zoning district. The village council recently, I believe it was recently after the sale of the old water treatment plant, they made a modification to the RS3 zoning district in order to allow 0 lot line homes within the RS3, and they put some stipulations into the code for RS3 zone properties with 0 lot line homes on them. One of them being that they wanted 55-foot wide lots in the RS3 zoning district. I'm going to trust that you guys were paying attention to the variance criteria from the previous variance. They're the same for the next 3 items. If you want me to, I will read them again if anybody needs to be reminded. Anybody? Okay. So the variance criteria is the same. Depicted here is the site plan for Pod 4. You can see that the northern portion of the pod is under the a large FP&L easement that has the transmission lines that feed a large portion of the western communities. So that basically is not any fault of the applicants that those power lines are there. They're a necessity for people to have lights and power and air conditioning and everything that people need and enjoy in South Florida related to electricity. Having said that, the applicant is requesting a variances to the village's code of ordinance at section 26-80, parens 2, parens B, patio homes, in order to permit a minimum lot width of 45 feet, where the village code requires a lot width of 55 feet within the single-family RS3 zoning district. The applicant, through an accompanying application, is requesting site plan approval for 102 patio, 0 lot line home, single-family style units, and the variance request to allow the reduction in the required lot width for these units. These units are part of Pod 4, and for location, please see attachment A. The criteria, again, are the same for the last variance, and the applicant is contending that the proposed 3.02 units per acre is well below the allowable density for this zoning district, and due to the encumbrance of the Florida Power and Light easement to the north, there is a limited portion of the site area that can be used for development. The applicant goes on to state within their justification statement that this particular variance has been requested to be more in line with the patio home section of the code. The patio home section of the code allows lots to be a minimum of 40 feet wide in several other residential zoning districts. Although there are other residential districts that permit patio home development at 40-foot RMU, RV6, and RT8, the village specifically requested that the applicant propose RS3 zoning for this pod, and so they must follow the RS3 zoning regulations. There are several neighborhoods in the village that have lots with a 45-foot and 50-foot width, including the adjacent residential neighborhood, Victoria Groves, which has one of those zoning districts, RMU, that permits the 40-foot lots. Village staff is not in support of this variance because staff believes that no special conditions or circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands. The condition is the result from actions of the applicant, and granting of the variance will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands. The literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant of the rights enjoyed by other lands in the same zoning district, and it is not the minimum variance necessary to allow reasonable use of the property. So therefore, village staff requests a recommendation for denial of the application 18107 VAR and the ordinance variance order VC 19-03 to the village, be submitted to the village council. And here is a depiction of the 45-foot wide lots that they're proposing with the 0 lot line, and then corner lots would be 60, which meets the code required minimum. In addition, I think it's on another variance application, but they're asking for, and that'll come up later, the corner yard setback to be reduced as well. So in all, there were 3 variances that we'll go through before we get to the actual site plan application. Having said that, village staff's presentation is complete, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
The applicant is here too. They have a presentation.
Any presentation from the applicant?
Allie Palmer, for the record, Urban Design Kilday Studios, here tonight representing the applicant, TLH of multiple entities. So I had some trouble at Village Council last month, and I figured out I couldn't use my drive, so I emailed this presentation. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew it wasn't unfair for the other applicant. Unfortunately, you learn through experience, right? Okay. Kevin covered a lot of what we are looking at this evening. There are several variance requests. They're all sort of related, so I just wanted to go over some general information first. And I'll jump actually through to my 5th slide here. So tonight you're going to see the 3 variances, which I'll go into detail here in a minute, and then you'll also see the site plan after we go through the 3 variances, which seems a little bit unnatural, but we have to make sure you all will hopefully support the variances before we get to the site plan. The 3 variances, as Kevin mentioned, will be coming before you. We're first going to go through the lot width, which again, Kevin mentioned quite a bit, but I did want to go back a little bit through how we got here tonight. So as some of you may remember, in, I guess actually you all probably saw it in the fall, but most recently in March, we received a final adoption on the single-family land use for the site that allowed up to actually 5 dwelling units per the acre with the single-family land use designation. Then in April, we went ahead and received the final zoning district adoption of RS3, single-family. And as Kevin mentioned, we were specifically requested by the village to propose the RS3 zoning district. We had originally proposed RT8, which, as some of you may know, allows for townhome development. Although we were not proposing townhome development, it did allow us to use all the property development rights regulations that we needed for the proposed site plan you'll see later. Unfortunately, there was also the idea that we could have developed townhomes, which the village and the adjacent neighborhood did not want to see on this property. That being said, we agreed that we would change the requested zoning to RS3 as a safety net to make sure that only single-family development could be completed on the subject site. That being said, at the time, we actually received entitlement for 106 single-family homes, which gave us 3.14 dwelling units to the acre. Tonight on the site plan, you'll see there's actually only 102 homes proposed because once everything gets planned on an actual survey, you go down a little bit. And so we are at 3.02 dwelling units to the acre. Again, just to give you a big picture, the site plan is before you. And as Kevin mentioned, quite a bit of the site, just under 6 acres, and it is encumbered by this FP&L easement, which is really a public benefit to the village because it does provide for the transmission corridor, as you probably see throughout many parcels within the village, and that's obviously very important to everybody who lives here and in the surrounding areas. So variance 1, we are requesting the 45-foot lot width, because the RS3 single-family district requires 55 feet for patio homes, unlike the rest of the districts that Kevin had mentioned, where you can actually go down to a 40-foot lot width, such as RT8, which we had previously proposed. A lot of this information we've already reviewed. Just to give you some other ideas of the neighborhoods that have these 45-foot lot widths: Victoria Groves to the south, as Kevin had mentioned, but also Nautica Lakes, which has the RT8, and Madison Green, which was approved by PUD. These communities all have 45-foot lot widths in their communities. As I mentioned, the 45-foot lot is required to produce the 102 lots proposed, and that's mostly due to that large FP&L easement encumbrance on the north side of the property. I believe that concludes the first one, so I will hold off and let Kevin go to the next variance.
And I would like to enter a correction into the record. I believe Ally misspoke. She said that they received entitlement for 106 units. Obviously, the site plan hasn't been approved yet, so there is no entitlement. I believe what she was referencing is that the traffic letter that she got from Palm Beach County gave them trips for 106 units. So I just wanted to make that clarification. I don't know that it's going to sway the board's decision either way, but I'm sworn to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me summarize. We worked very closely with staff over the past, seems like 20 years, but it's been 2 years. And again, we submitted as RA8 and we wouldn't need this variance whatsoever. But staff asked us to do it as an R32 so we could totally justify all the neighbors to make sure they knew we weren't going to do townhomes. Because we had originally wanted to do townhomes and staff convinced us that they wouldn't support that. So we went to the 45, so we were working together for that. And so we said, well, and staff asked us to go from RT8 to RT3, and then everyone knows there won't be townhomes. And then when we did it, we said we're going to need this variance. And as staff has told you, you know, they're not, I don't know how they say it, but they really can't support variances, but it's up to the village council to make those decisions. So that's why we're asking for this variance, so that we can continue to work with the staff and come up with the best project for everybody involved. Thank you.
Just name for the record. I'm sure they all know you, just so they.
Brian
Thank you.
Tuttle.
Thank you.
Okay, so next is any public comment? No public comment. Okay, Commissioner. Sorry, Commissioner Specht.
No.
Commissioner Nazareth.
Yes, Ally it is. Can you come back and talk about the second and third variance, please? Because there were 3 that you're asking for, 3 points on this variance.
No, those are the next applications on your agenda.
Oh, okay. So we're just voting on the,
Just,
okay.
These are separate, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Just getting it clear. Okay, then I'd like to talk to Kevin. Kevin, you mentioned that they asked for the RS3 zoning, right? And this was granted to Victoria Groves, and also Ally mentioned in the presentation Madison Green, right? Something similar to what they're asking for.
It's still on the screen, as a matter of fact. It's Victoria Groves, Nautical Lakes, and Madison Green. And those are in the zoning districts, which she pointed out do allow 40-foot lots, which is even smaller than the 45 that they're asking for.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because I was missing a piece here. Now, also, you mentioned special privileges. So why is, and this just expanding on that point, why is this special privileges to this particular application?
Well, because the zoning district in which they're located, in order to allow patio homes, there is a stipulation within the zoning code that says if you do patio homes in this zoning district, the lots must be 45 feet or 55 feet
55,
wide.
right?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Markey.
I have no comment.
Quick question on the RS3 zoning requirements. So do we know what was the basis for the request, the specific request by the council to require RS3 zoning for this pod? Was it simply to eliminate the requirement or the possibility of townhomes, or were there?
No, townhomes were never allowed in the RS3. What you're thinking of is Mr. Tuttle had said that they originally proposed RT8,
Yeah.
which would have allowed them 40-foot wide lots with 0 lot lines, but it would also have brought up the specter that maybe he's not going to develop single family, maybe he's going to develop townhomes instead, and none of the neighbors were on board with that.
Right.
And village staff was not on board with that.
So what I understood from the presentations was that the council pretty much required it to be changed, and the main reason was to avoid the possibility that there would be townhomes developed on those properties.
No, that's not what I said. I said that RT8, which is the zoning district which allows townhomes, what they did was they changed the RS3 zoning district. RS3 and I think RS2 probably never allowed patio homes. So they made an amendment to that code that said, yes, you can do patio homes. Lennar did a planned unit development on the property that we sold to them, the former water treatment plant site, and they indicated that they wanted to do patio homes there. That was the impetus originally for putting patio homes into the RS3 zoning district, and they require 3 types of housing units in a PUD. So they had 0 lot line, they had standard single family, and then they had estate lots.
Okay.
So those were their 3, but the council, for whatever reason, when Lennar was coming through, stipulated if you're going to do the 0 lot lines, we want them on 55-foot wide lots.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what went into the code.
So it's not clear to me what the hardship is.
Yeah.
Did I miss something? I know that really we're trying to get more units on the acreage that is there, that's available, but
let me go ahead and speak on behalf of the applicant. Don't take this as me advocating for the applicant, because our position is denial. But what they're saying is, if this property was not encumbered by an FP&L easement that's about 6 acres, they would be entitled by the zoning code to have 5 units to the acre.
right.
With 102 lots, their density is 3.02 units per acre. In order to get even 102 lots, they need to shrink the width of the lots
Exactly.
in order to get the 102 units. So they're not asking for more density than they would be allowed. They're well under the density. What they're asking for is they're asking for a variance to the width to get the 102 lots.
Right. But what I guess, in other words, to get 55-foot lots, you would have to reduce the density.
You would have to
You
go
would reduce
go
the
even lower than the 3.028 units to the acre.
Right. But there is no real hardship in doing that, right? There is no hardship in reducing the density or increasing the lot size. It's simply a matter of you want 102 lots, but it doesn't meet code,
Can I
right?
speak to the hardship?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the hardship's simple. We have to buy 20 acres of land we can't use. So to make the numbers work, we need a minimum number of units. So if you put them at 55 or 60, we can't get the density to cover the overhead cost of, there's $18 million in off-site improvements between the bridge, the road, the bridge at Southern, the $1 million we had to give Lake Worth Drainage District for that road to build the roads, the park. We have to give an 11-acre park. So we have $18 million in off-site improvements. We're trying to cover the cost. Every unit is desperate. if you'd have known how hard I fought for those 4 units we lost, you would have believed it. So the hardship is clearly it's just a numbers thing, you know. We got it. We can't use. It's not the FPNL isn't 6 acres. It's about 12. Sorry. It's 12 acres. So that's 12 acres we can't use. But you know, we're going to have paths and walking paths and stuff like that. And again, we could have the reason. I think the question that I thought you asked was why did it change from RT8 to RS3? Was because we wanted to get the neighbors on board, and the only way we could convince them we would never do townhomes was to do the RT3, and that would not allow townhomes. So I don't think the density has been the issue. It's just making the lots work in the size, and again, we have the traffic, and if you read the comp plan and the zoning, it specifically calls out in each one of those up to 106 units. It doesn't entitle you to them, but it says up to. We know we couldn't go over that. So that's why we're at the 104 or 102.
And I hate to be the killjoy to Mr. Tuttle, but economic hardship is not a reason for granting a variance. It's not one of the criteria.
Okay.
Although we understand that it cannot be an economic hardship, I think what Mr. Tuttle was trying to point out was that our hardship is that the FP&L easement is encumbering 12 acres of the property, therefore yielding a little bit more than half of the property as developable. So that is the hardship here. Also, the fact that we had agreed to change the zoning in order to satisfy the residents to the south, RT8 would have been completely compatible here. You see townhouses next to single family all the time. There was no reason that this applicant could not request RT8. There was nothing incompatible about that land use and that zoning. It was something that we agreed to make amends with the neighbors to the south. So that is the other hardship here, is that we had agreed to change the zoning to allow for only single family development. So those are our 2 hardships. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And yes, RS3 eliminates townhome development completely.
And staff concurs that that is a valid, that's a valid reason for pointing out a hardship, not the economics of it.
Right. Thank you. Okay. I think that's all I have. So I guess we need a motion. Are we ready for a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. Application number 18-0107. I would agree with staff, and I'd like to make it a denial because I'm not convinced that this is a hardship.
Second. That's a question. Any second?
Seconds.
What do we do now?
Motion fails for
There's
lack
no
of
second,
second.
correct?
Okay.
Motion fails.
It dies.
I'm sorry?
Uh,
I didn't hear the last comment.
no, I said if there's no second, right,
Motion fails.
motion fails.
Correct.
That's what I said.
More discussion? Do we have any more comments
or another motion.
questions?
Or another motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to, I'm sorry, which number? We're on number 5, right?
4.
4. We're still at 4.
We're still on 4, okay. So I move to approve application number 18-017.
Second?
He didn't hear you.
Repeat that motion, please.
I move to approve application number 18-0107. Yes, thank you. As-
Is there a second?
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
I oppose.
4-1?
Motion carries 4-1, yes.
All right. Next item. Item 5, application number 18-122, variance for Southern Boulevard Properties, Pod 4. The applicant, Urban Design Kilday Studios, is requesting a variance from section 23-18, section B3B2, to allow for a minimum of 625 square feet of landscaped area in the front yard, where the village code requires that the lesser of 1,000 square feet or 75% of the front yard, 844 square feet, be landscaped on a 33.75 plus or minus acre parcel of land located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7.
Okay, the monitor is highlighting the cited, oh, sorry.
Ex parte, sorry.
Parte.
Any ex parte communications with regard to application 18-122?
No.
Okay. Same site, same variance criteria, different variance request. This one deals with the front yard area and the landscape area that is required. In standard single-family lots, usually they're, I believe, 80 feet wide is what RS2 requires, and usually 100 feet deep. So it would be an 8,000 square foot lot. And in chapter 23, we have a section that says that either the lesser of 75% of the front yard area or 1,000 square feet shall be in landscaping and not in pavement or hardscape. So being that these are narrower lots, they're with a standard 20-foot wide driveway and a 45-foot wide lot, the most that they can get in the front yard as landscape area is 625 square feet. So that covers the request. The applicant contends that the proposed 3.02 units per acre is well below the allowed density for this zoning district, and due to the encumbrance of the Florida Power and Light easement to the north, there is a limited portion of the site area that can be used for development. The applicant goes on to state within their justification statement that the smallest lot proposed could have a front yard area dimensioned at 45 feet by 25 feet for a total of 1,125 square feet in area. The code that requires that a minimum of 1,000 square feet of the front yard is landscaped green space with a 20-foot wide driveway. The 45-foot wide lots will only have approximately 625 feet of green space in the front yard if the home sits right at the 25-foot front setback, requiring a variance of 219 feet on the smallest lot. Village staff is not in support of this variance because staff believes that no special conditions or circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands. The condition is the result from actions of the applicant. It will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands, and literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant of rights enjoyed by other lands in the same zoning district, and it is not the minimum variance necessary to allow reasonable use of the property. Having said that, you saw the diagram that shows the 625. Obviously, the 60-foot wide lots are able to meet, come closer to the requirement than the 45-foot, but they're still not able to meet it. But the way the variance is worded, we're taking the smallest area that could possibly be, and that is the variance is being granted. They can obviously provide more on the larger lots, but 625 is the minimum that they're asking for. So having said that, the applicant is here and can cover her portion of the presentation for that variance.
For the record, Allie Palmer, once again from UDKS. Been so long. Where am I? Hold on here. Okay, I did this slide real quick for you on the second variance because I don't know about you, but I always get a little bit confused about where this actually exists in the code. It's in the traffic and vehicle section under parking. So, as Kevin mentioned, the code reads that the lesser of 1,000 square feet or 75% of the front yard is landscaped. As Kevin mentioned, we are proposing 55% of the front yard or 625 square feet. Again, that would be on the smallest lot, and that would be the 25 by 25 green area adjacent to the driveway, the 20-foot driveway. Obviously, this is a cause of the 45-foot lot width. If you have 45 feet, you take a 20-foot driveway out of it, you're left with 25 feet. And then, of course, a front setback. The absolute worst case scenario is that the house is sitting on the 25-foot, and there you end up with a 25 by 25 square. Just some things to point out. Again, this would be the worst case scenario. If the lot's wider than 45 feet, if the lot is deeper than 100 feet, if the front yard setback, if the house is not sitting on the 25-foot setback in that green, adjacent to that green area, obviously this area is going to be larger. The worst case scenario is that all these things combined in one situation, and that would be the 625 square foot of landscape area. That would be decreased by the 219 square feet that the code additional that the code would require. Again, this is relative to the 45-foot lot width that we just went over in the previous variance, the fact that we have the FP&L easement to the north, and that we are required to had asked for the RS3 zoning. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think, yep, there we go. That was it on pod 2, variance 2.
All right, Commissioner Specht?
You want to take public comment?
Oh,
I'm
I'm sorry.
for the interruption. Thank you.
Yes, public comment, please. Okay, no public comment. Commissioner Specht?
No questions.
Questions? Commissioner Nazareth?
Ali, can I ask you a quick question? Maybe? So basically in the landscape area, the front yard, you're talking about that portion, right? Can you explain to me the hardship, because I'm not seeing it here?
So again, this goes back to the 45. Everything that we have to do is relative to because we're requesting the 45-foot lot width.
Right.
We are obviously limited with a 20-foot driveway. So therefore, we only have a certain width remaining in the front yard area. And so because of the 45-foot lot width, we are also having to request this accommodation, this variance to the front yard area as well. Sorry, I thought they were trying to get my attention. So based on that, our hardship continues to be the encumbrance of the FP&L easement to the north, having less land area, nearly over 12 acres of land that we cannot use, and that we have to rely on the remaining acreage of the site to develop 102 units, which is only 3 dwelling units to the acre, which is RS3 would allow up to 5 dwelling units to the acre and actually allow quite a lot more units if we would be able to use the land that is encumbered by the FP&L easement.
One other note, on the other 3 communities in the village that have the 45-foot lots, they don't meet the code for the front yard green space either. They have the exact same front yard size, but it's not a variance in them because they're a different zoning. So we'll be completely consistent with all the other 45-foot lots. It's just we're doing it in the RT3, so we convinced RS3, so we could convince the neighbors we weren't going to do townhomes.
Also, you talked about the FPL easement, that's the basis, and you're not saying the economic, you're saying basically the FPL easement is, because I'm having an issue right now of special privileges, and I'm going to ask Kevin to expand on that, but I'm having trouble here seeing the actual hardship, is my point.
I guess
I understand you mentioned the others, like Madison, Green, you mentioned, who was it? Yeah, right, nautical.
So
Another way to say it is.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't have the FPNLs.
Yeah.
So they can do the, then.
Right, that's a
have the
bottom line.
neighbors.
Yeah, the FPL easement is the basis of your hardship.
It's one of the bases.
One of the, okay.
Yes.
And the other one is economic, right?
Well, no, I'm
Okay.
told I can't say it's
Oh,
economic.
all right, okay. Brian, I'm just asking, lay the cards on the table, that's all.
No. Again, if we were working with staff.
Yeah.
When we went from an RT8 to an
Right,
RT3.
to transition, right.
Which means we needed these three variants. If we went to the RT8, we'd have the exact same site plan, the
Okay.
exact same lot sizes.
Right.
And there'd be no variances. It'd be totally no variances.
Yeah.
So by going to the RT3, working with staff and working with the neighbors, we need these three variances. I think that that what we're asking for as politely as we can is because we're willing to work with staff and work with the neighbors, that we're granted the variances due to the issues that we presented, the FPNL and the other issue. What was the other one?
the zoning district.
The zone, right?
So the other communities have different zoning districts that you had listed. And so they don't have the RS3 zoning district. They have zoning districts that allow for different PDRs that are more lenient in the respect that in the conditions that we have on this particular site.
Okay. And this next question is to Kevin, if you would please. I noticed that you mentioned about the neighbors and the staff, and the basis of your denial, the staff denial, is that they'd have trouble with the townhouses, right? Or the townhomes? Or am I missing the picture here? But the zoning, according to what I wrote here, was that they...
The reason they didn't ask for the RT8
Right, okay.
was because it allows townhouses. RS3 does not allow townhouses.
Okay.
I think what Mr. Tuttle and Ally were alluding to is that some of the other ones that the other zoning districts
Right.
that have planned unit developments,
Right.
they were able to vary without a variance
Okay.
the property development regulations through a special thing within the planned unit development section that says you can vary certain parts of the code
Right.
without asking for a variance.
Okay. That's the point I was trying to make, or trying to find out, because I heard it, but I wanted to hear it again so that I was clear on that point.
Right, she alluded to it, but she said PDRs, and not everybody knows what PDRs are, so I expounded on it, property development regulations, which is basically why they're asking for a variance here.
Because I don't want to see special privileges come into play here, because we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges and not, mixing them. These are different zoning areas, and we have our own.
Right.
Okay.
And I think the other point that she was trying to make is in working with the neighborhood, which we always encourage
Right.
applicants to work with the neighborhood, and I think they must have done a pretty good job, because I don't see anybody from the adjoining neighborhood here to speak tonight.
Up in arms, sure.
They agreed to the RS3.
Uh-oh. He's here now.
Okay. So they agreed to the RS3 to take away the specter of the townhomes, but they gave up the flexibility that zoning district would have allowed them, is what they're trying to say.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Chairman.
Commissioner Markey?
Well, since we ought to approve the item beforehand, which to me kind of goes with this, so it seems like you can't.
Well,
Approve this
if you move to deny any of the variances, then by default, you need to move to deny the site plan at the end.
That's the thing I was telling you.
That's it. Commissioner Miller?
Yes, I have a question for Ally. I know you're talking about some of the houses are going to have certain number of variables coming together to create that smaller front yard. I've been in a number of developments that you have those tiny front yards. It just doesn't look good, right? Because it's right on the road, things like that. I understand not all the houses are going to have that in this development. What what other greens, in the village, we like to keep our green space as much as possible. What other plans do you have? Maybe we talked about in previous meetings. I just don't remember, but can you talk about that, please?
Sure. And that's a lot of the site plan request, of course, which we haven't gone over yet. However, you will see once we do go over that application that we have lots of green space in the community. We have 2 large amenity areas, recreation areas. We have lots of landscape buffers. We have beautiful street trees lining the streets, everything else that you would typically see in one of our Royal Palm Beach communities, one in which I live in. And so it's not going to be dissimilar to what you've already seen in the community and in some of the existing neighborhoods as far as green space. Also, every lot is going to have, obviously the green space surrounding the house and all the other areas. Another thing to consider here is we haven't proposed architecture yet because we don't have necessarily a single family home developer chosen for this site yet. So once the architecture comes before you, which it will have to do as part of the architectural review, as well as the typical landscape plans for each of those homes, those are considerations that you can make at that time as well, is make sure that, maybe some of those items are addressed in more detail at that point.
If we do approve this motion, I would like to ask that we look at that green space when you come back to this board in the future to address that, because if you have 5, 6, 7 homes that end up having that smaller front yard, it's going to look really bad. So if there's some consideration, I'd appreciate that.
I'm sure we can do that.
Okay. Same comment regarding, it seems like these all go hand in hand, these variances, but I guess they have to be separated because by the approval of the prior variation, there is there is no choice. There's no alternative. Really.
And another reason they're separated is because it's different sections of the code that they're asking for variances to.
I'm curious: are the single family homes going to be 2-story or single story? I guess
they haven't
decided.
designed them yet, and the only thing that I wanted to note is that when they do design them, the zoning district and the patio home section allow them to cover the lot with 80% impervious area. So, but that's common in any 0 lot line or RS3 neighborhood. So that's no different than in any other district. But I just wanted to make it clear that they can propose models that take up to 80% with the driveway and patios. And
so would that 80% eat into or take away from this reduced green space in the front?
No, because they presented the worst case scenario that's at that 25-foot front setback.
Yeah, the other question I had is how many lots of the 102 would actually have this?
All of the 45-foot lot.
Well, how many 45-foot lots are there? Are they mostly 45-foot lots?
I don't have that actual number in front of me, but yeah, it is a majority. So I want to say it was 80 something, and I can probably pull that up before the end of the meeting if you need to know the numbers.
And one correction she has is this pod is under contract with Toll Brothers. And Toll Brothers is planning on doing some very luxury homes here. And if you've ever been in a Toll community, you'll be very impressed with the architecture and the landscape that they do. Plus, I know we can't speak about the site plan, but I think when you see the site plan and the green space in the site plan, you'll be very pleased with that. Plus, remember, a lot of these homes, all these homes, 80% of them, 90%, they either overlook a canal or an FP&L easement, or they walk to the new 11-acre regional park that I'm donating to the village. So it's not like it's a tight community. It may seem that way, but there's a tremendous amount of area around each one. Like all the lots on the canal have a 25-foot in the backyard, not counting the lot, have a 25-foot backyard landscape buffer. Then they have 25 feet, and they have a 60-foot canal. So there's a lot more open space on this than we can talk about when we get into the site plan.
All right, no, I have no other comments or questions. So we're ready for a motion, if anyone wants to make one.
I make the motion that we approve application number 18-122.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I oppose.
Next
So
item?
it carries, just for the record, it carries, the motion carries 4-1.
Okay. Okay, so item 6, application number 18-123, a variance for Southern Boulevard Properties, POD 4. The applicant, Urban Design Kilday Studios, is requesting a variance from section 26-63A, minimum lot dimensions to allow for 4,500 square foot lots where village code requires 5,000 square feet, and a variance from section 26-63B, minimum setbacks to allow for a 15-foot setback where village code requires 20 feet on a 33.75 plus or minus acre parcel of land located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7.
Same, oh, go ahead.
Again, just turning back to the commission, are there any ex parte communications with regard to 18-123?
No.
Thank you.
Same site, same location, same pod, same developer. Same criteria that you judge the variance on. And this one has two components. One is that they're asking for a minimum lot size smaller than 5,000 square feet, which would be the 45 by 100 foot lots. It is my understanding that there are approximately 8 of those lots out of the 102. And then I had alluded to it earlier and realized that it was part of this variance instead and wasn't the proper time to talk about it. Corner lots require a 25 or 20-foot corner yard setback, and they are proposing only to have 15 feet. And I will go over the applicant's justification, which is pretty much the same as for the other two variances that you've already heard. The only difference is that they note that only 8 of the 102 lots will be less than the 5,000 square feet. And again, I don't have an exact number. I don't know if the applicant does, but only the corner lots are subject to the 20-foot corner yard setback. So it's another small number of lots that we're talking about for that variance. Again, village staff is not in support of this variance because there are no special conditions and circumstances that exist which are not applicable to other lands. Condition is the result of actions of the applicant. It will confer on the applicant special privileges that are denied to other lands. The literal interpretation of the code does not deprive the applicant of rights enjoyed by other lands in the same zoning district, and it's not the minimum variance necessary to allow reasonable use of the property. Therefore, we're requesting a recommendation of denial be forwarded to the village council on this application. That was it for my slides. Ms. Palmer is here to present her presentation, unless you have any questions of me first.
I do not.
Allie Palmer once again. Okay. So just to give you a bit more of a visual here, these are the lot typicals that Kevin had up on the screen previously. There are two parts of this variance because they are both in the patio home section of the code, so that's why you're seeing these requests under one variance application. The first one is the lot area. We are requesting a 500 square foot variance. As we've discussed twice now, the 45-foot lot width is leading to many of the requests you see tonight. If we have a minimum 100-foot lot depth, which some of the lots do have, we will end up with a 4,500 square foot lot. And that's what pushes us into the 500 square foot variance. And then, as Kevin had also mentioned, the side corner yard setback. This is only for the the corner lots. There are very few in the community, and that would require a 5-foot variance. Forgot I had animation there. Okay, so just going back to the lot area. Also, as Kevin mentioned, there are only 8 lots out of the 102, so that's about just under 8% of all the lots in the entire community that would require this variance. We did provide an analysis of this to staff, which was in the backup of the application. We had gone through every single lot in the entire community to make sure that this was the case, and there was only 8 of the total lots that would be under the 5,000 square foot. And these are the ones that are a bit more shallow, that are on the interior road. And they, unfortunately, because of the configuration of the property with the lesser acreage that are to be developed as homes and not encumbered by the FP&L easement, we are restricted in that area. And so those lots are smaller size and require the variance. And again, just pointing out, this would be the minimum, the 100-foot and the 45-foot lot width. The second part, I'm sorry, I just reviewed all this. The side corner yard setback. This was an error on my part, so please don't read the first part of that slide. I had forgotten that Kevin pointed out, even on these corner lots that have a standard home, the first part of the slide discusses the fact that if it was a side load garage, we require the 15-foot side corner setback. However, a standard home would also require it on these corner lots. And the reason for that is because of the dimension on the corner of the home to the, what we call the corner clip property line, would also be 15 feet. So in essence, all corner lots, no matter what the product is, will require a 5-foot variance for the 20-foot required side corner setback. And there are only 5 corner lots. So luckily, this is only for less than 5% of all the lots in the community. And on that note, I am through with variance number 3. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Public comment. No public comment. Commissioner Specht, any comments or questions? Commissioner Nazareth?
No comment.
Commissioner Markey?
Nothing.
Commissioner Miller?
No comments.
Okay. I do not have any either. So, motion? Anyone? For item number 6?
I'll make the motion. We approve application number 18, 123.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
4-1.
4 to 1.
I'm sorry. All right. Okay, next item. Item 7. Application number 18-0085. Southern Boulevard Properties, POD 4. The applicant, Urban Design Kilday Studios, is requesting site plan approval for 102 patio home, 0 lot line, single family style units on a 33.75 plus or minus acre parcel of land located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.27 miles west of State Road 7. The applicant is also requesting special exception approval to allow for 1 unit type within a singular pod of a planned development on the same parcel. Finally, the applicant is requesting a landscape waiver from section 15-131E in order to allow the required 15-foot wide landscape buffer to be reduced to 10 feet to allow for a 5-foot walking path on the south side of the buffer on the same parcel.
Any ex parte communications with regard to 18-0085?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, that covered the, I think we all very clear on how many units and what the zoning is and the location. So the applicant is seeking site plan, special exception, and a landscape waiver. The site plan you saw earlier that has the 102 lots. The northern portion is encumbered by the FP&L easement. We've discussed the 3 variances that are necessary in order to make the 102 units possible. Having said that, they're also seeking special exception use approval to allow for a PUD, which only provides one type of housing unit. As I explained earlier, PUDs normally require 3 housing types. This one will offer only the zero or patio home style of unit. In addition, the applicant is requesting a landscape waiver in order to provide only a 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the north. Oh, there we go. Along the north property line, in order to incorporate a walking path that will connect all the way from the furthest home all the way over to the amenities for the community, the clubhouse and the pool and the other recreational amenities. So pursuant to 2675-4G1, the applicant is required to provide recreational space of 10 acres of recreation space for every 1,000 residents. Each dwelling unit generates 3 residents per village code. Thus, based upon the proposed 102 single-family dwelling units, the following recreation is required, and the calculation goes as follows. 102 dwelling units times 3 persons per unit equals 306 persons. 306 persons divided by 1,000, which is the number of residents that requires 10 acres, equals 306 times the requirement of 10 acres per each 1,000 residents comes out to 3.06 acres of recreational space that is required for the 102 unit development. Section 2675H2 allows for credit for private open space where up to 50% of the required recreation area can be provided as private recreation to the residents of the subdivision. The applicant is proposing to provide a total of 1.53 acres of private recreation on site for a total of 50% of the project's recreation obligation. The private recreation areas proposed will include a pool, multi-purpose sports court, playground, fitness trails, and a picnic area. The applicant will also be dedicating 1.53 acres of land totaling 100% of the remaining 50% recreation obligation. The 1.53 acres will be a part of Pod 8, which was intended to be the receiving area for the recreation obligations for Pods 2, 3, and 4. In reviewing the petition, village staff considered conformity with the Village of Royal Palm Beach's zoning code pertaining to single-family RS3 zoning district. Specifically, the proposed project meets the requirements for the multifamily residential RS3 zoning district as follows. The parcel size, the site is 33.75 acres and exceeds the minimum area required for RS3, designated property of 7,000 square feet. The parcel width, the site exceeds the minimum parcel width of 65 feet of frontage. Setbacks, any proposed buildings will be required to conform to the design standards for this zoning district at the time of building permit review. And we're going to have to review that as part of the architectural to make sure that the proposed units fit on the lots and meet that as well. Pervious area, the site will be required to meet or exceed the minimum pervious area requirement at the time of building permit review. It should be fairly simple for this particular site to meet the pervious area requirements due to the large FP&L easement, which is close to 12 acres. So with the 20% of the remaining lot being pervious area and the recreational amenities, they should have a minimum of 50% of the total development as pervious area. The site plan will meet or exceed the parking requirements for single-family homes at the time of building permit review. Obviously, we can't determine that because we don't have the design for the homes at this present time. The landscape areas, the proposed site plan conforms with all aspects of the village's landscape code, with the exception of the required 15-foot buffer, which is the subject of a landscape waiver request to reduce the required 15-foot wide buffer down to 10 feet along the north property line, and the maximum building height of 30 feet will be met at the time of architectural review and also confirmed at time of building permit. Overall, the proposed site plan is in conformance with the village's requirements for the single-family residential RS3 zoning district, with the exception of the variances being requested under separate application. Village staff is recommending requesting a recommendation of approval to be submitted to the village council regarding application 18085 SPSELW and resolution number 19-17. This recommendation is contingent upon the approval of the accompanying variance requests, which we already dealt with. They were approved, so we are recommending approval of the site plan. When they come back through for the architecture, we'll have the landscape plan that you can review because that is also part of the architectural review, so there's no point in going over that at this point. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the applicant so they can continue their presentation.
I have a quick question. So the reduction in the 15-foot landscape buffer to allow for a 5-foot sidewalk, is that 5-foot sidewalk required by code or?
It was something that staff suggested in order to allow all of the residents to access all of the recreation areas that they've scattered throughout the site. And there is no reduction in the landscape material within that 10-foot buffer. It's just in a narrower strip. The same quantities will be required. And so it, other than the fact that it's a little bit more bunched together, that's the real only difference that would be noticed.
Okay. Presentation from the applicant.
Allie Palmer, once again, Urban Design, Kilday Studios. I'll try to be a little quick here. Just want to go over some of the highlights. Site plans before you on the screen. As you can see, the FPL easement remains to the north of the site. Access to the site will be by way of Luffs Road. Luffs Road connects to the main spine road of the community, which will take you to north to Southern Boulevard or west to State Road 7. The community is providing drainage through a lake system that will be connected to other master drainage systems throughout the master plan community. However, there will be a point just under an acre-sized lake within Pod 4 as well, in addition to the dry detention to the north within the FP&L easement. As I believe Kevin mentioned, we are proposing a 50-foot right-of-way. We're trying to keep the scale of the roadway consistent with the smaller single-family community of only 100 lots. We don't want this large segment of pavement looking across at your neighbor across the street. We're still going to have all the components there, so the required sidewalks, the required street trees, everything else that you would normally see in a right-of-way. We're taking it out of other things such as the swales and the actual pavement that's in the roadway and whatnot. And this is just done by waiver to the subdivision code. As Kevin had also mentioned, we are proposing a landscape waiver to the buffer on the north adjacent to the FP&L easement. So we do have a requirement for that landscape buffer on the north, but again, we have a large FP&L easement full of green open space between us and the community that's proposed to the north. So I believe that the residents will feel quite comfortable on those northern lots. We're going to be proposing the exact same required amount of landscape material within the buffer. As Kevin also mentioned, there will be a walking path in that buffer, which I'll go into more detail in a minute. But the 5 feet is actually because there's going to be an area of encumbrance of the landscape buffer into the FP&L easement. So we're going to put all the planting material within the 10 feet that's within Pod 4 developable area. And then there'll be just a small sodded area at the bottom of the berm that's going to be actually within the FP&L easement area. It'll be green. And if you're out there, you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference, but by plat and whatnot, it's part of our requirement to request the waiver. So going into the recreation areas, as Kevin mentioned, we are required to have at least 50% located off-site, which will go into Pod 8 directly to the east of this project. It's going to be a great amenity for these residents. They'll be able to walk to that public park right outside of their neighborhood, which is wonderful. So just over 1.5 acres will go into that Pod 8 that the applicant is dedicating to the village. The other 1.5 acres, 1.53 acres, will be provided on site as permitted by the code. 0.7 of that rec area will be provided in what you would see as your common recreation clubhouse amenity. In this particular neighborhood, because of the smaller number of lots, we didn't want to propose too big of a clubhouse, but we have a cabana and a pool area, as well as a multi-purpose court, a playground, and then we also have a parking area for guests. Please note the parking area is not considered part of the rec area. We didn't use that towards the requirement, but it is there so that people can drive to the pool if they wanted to, or have a guest come and park there and whatnot. As you can see, we have proposed, we have landscape plans included with this request. We understand that they're going to have to come back as part of your architectural approval, but they are required as part of your site plan application. So this area has been landscaped, and as you can see on the screen, the amenity areas have been heavily landscaped above the code requirements, because we really wanted to make sure that when you come into this community, you see that lush landscaped environment and all the the common open spaces. The second recreational area, 0.8 acres, is what we're calling our passive park amenity. That's over on the west side of the community. It'll have fitness trails, picnic areas, and that will also be the connection to the trail, the fitness trail that's going to be in the buffer area. So that north buffer, the one that we're asking the waiver for, is actually going to connect those two recreation areas so that residents can walk from one to the other, which will be a nice little amenity for them if they want to get some exercise or whatnot. As we had mentioned earlier, we do have concurrency, not entitlement, for the site for 106 units. Excuse my error earlier today. That was required as part of both of our future land use and our rezoning that you had already come to your board. And in conclusion, that's all I have on the site plan. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment? Public comments. Commissioner Speck?
No comments. No
Commissioner
comments.
Nazara?
I'm happy.
Nothing from me.
Markey? Commissioner Miller?
No comments.
Okay, I have none.
If I could, just very quickly
Export.
before you motion, as Kevin indicated, potential approval of this application, the site plan, the special exception, and landscape waiver, is contingent upon final approval of the variances. So if you could, as part of a motion to approve, make sure that you restate that those are conditioned on final variance approvals, that'd be great.
All right. Who's gonna make the motion?
I'll make the motion. Motion to approve application number 18-0085 as read.
Second it.
You have a second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right. Motion to adjourn?
No.
Oh, we have one more item?
We do.
Oh, we do?
The LPA?
Yeah, the LPA.
Oh, right. But motion to adjourn the planning and zoning meeting, I guess?
Yeah, exactly.
Do I need to motion that?
Yeah, did somebody make a motion?
I move that we close the planning and zoning meeting.
Oh,
I second it.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Did we get a second on that motion?
Yes, I did.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Thank you.
All right, so let's open the local planning agency meeting. Okay, do we need to do roll call again? No, right?
No, Lauren, if you could just state that the same folks for the record are on the dais.
We don't need the pledge either.
No, everybody's here from P and Z and the
We don't
planning
do it
agency.
once. Okay, we do need a motion to approve the minutes of the May 14th, 2019 local planning agency meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the May 14th local planning agency meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 1 for discussion. Sorry?
Approve the minutes?
Yeah, Adam.
Yes. we do.
Adam made the motion and Philip
Phil second.
made the second.
Sorry.
Sure. Item 1 for discussion, application 18-0078, LSCPA, Southern Boulevard Properties, Pod 8. The applicant, Urban Design Kilday Studios, is requesting a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the land use designation of 13.144 plus or minus acres from Palm Beach County's low residential -2 PBC LR2 land use designation to the village's open space land use designation for an area located on the south side of Southern Boulevard, approximately 0.27 miles west of the State Road 7.
And if I could, just because we're at a different hearing, if I could swear both of you in again who are going to speak. Thank you. Do you all still swear from to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, if you'll direct your attention to the screen, Pod 8 is highlighted in red. It is approximately 13.144 acres, plus or minus. Its current land use is a county land use of LR2, and it's zoned AR currently. As mentioned previously, this is the receiving pod for all of the combined recreation requirements from all of the pods that have residential units. It is a requirement of the code that it be dedicated to the village to absorb the impact to the parks and recreation system that are created by the needs of the new residents that will be occupying the residential units that are proposed by the developer. Since the developer is going to dedicate the land to the village, we are obviously in support of taking it to open space so that we can eventually do a park on it, and we are looking for a recommendation from you all to the village council to approve the large-scale comp plan amendment from the county's LR2 to the village's open space. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Just a quick review. In reviewing comprehensive plan amendments, village staff considered the following: consistency of the proposed changes with elements of the comprehensive plan, consistency with the vision for the future of the village, compliance with state law, and whether the action requested will exacerbate any existing public facility capacity deficits as described in the traffic circulation element, sanitary sewer, solid waste, drainage, potable water element, and recreation, and open space elements of the comprehensive plan. Having said that, that concludes my presentation. The applicant is here if you would like a presentation from her, or I can field any questions that you might have.
Currently not.
Also, the village council already approved this on first reading, so then they approved it unanimously. So I would expect that if it's good enough for them on the first reading, that you would follow suit.
So no presentation from the applicant is necessary. No public here to comment. Commissioner Speck, Commissioner Nazareth, Commissioner Markey, Commissioner Miller.
Nope.
I have none.
Can I say one thing? Just quick, thank you for your dedication of this. That's it, my comment. And thank you, staff.
It's required by code, so.
When you get a gift, right, you say thank you.
Thank you for dedicating that land.
Pat yourself on the back. We end on a positive note, right?
I just gonna be excited when you guys site plan.
I know. I know, bro.
Yeah, the crowd might be bigger then. Right? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept application number 1-180078.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Excellent.
Do we need a motion?
Well, we need a motion, yes, please.
I move that we end the local planning agency meeting.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Make the
Nay.
motion and Phil second.
No.
I got it.
All right, I'm in favor. Motion carries 5-0.
Congratulations.
there you go.
Good job, first time around.